welcome back to another biology key topic. Another biology key topic, and the reason is simple why genetics is among the key topics. Get any question paper, any biology paper 2, and go on question 5. You're going to find that the question you're going to find there is under genetics. But now, minus you understanding this question, you're going to find that you're going to miss out 8 or 9 marks because this question mostly carries 8 to 9 marks. So it is very important that you understand. Now the question is, what are you supposed to understand under genetics for you to be on safe side? Well, that is what exactly I'm going to explain, so that whenever you've been given any question under genetics, you get it correctly. Wow. So I'm going to concentrate on things which usually come. I know, and I know that you know that there are a lot of things under genetics, but due to the fact that you are preparing yourself for the exam, this is not a time to know everything. This is a time to concentrate only on things which you actually they keep on repeating, because there is a high possibility that those things are going to be there in your question paper. So I'm going just to concentrate on things which I'm expecting to be there in your exams. Yeah, under genetics. Hope you understand that. Wow. So let's talk about this same genetics. This is a simple topic which you need to understand, and this is an interesting topic. What is genetics to begin with? What is genetics? Yeah, what is this same animal genetics? Well, that is very simple. Let me explain the term genetics, because I know that immediately I explain this term genetics, it is going to be very, very easy for you to understand some of the key things which you need to know under genetics. Wow. So when talk of genetics, maybe you've seen some families whereby the members of the families actually are, in fact, you can even see to say these are twins. Meanwhile, they're not what? They are not twins. They are actually, they resemble each other to the extent that you can even confuse them. Hope you've seen such families. So that happened because of genetics. There are some things which we call inherited characteristics. I want you to get this point. There are some things which we call inherited characteristics. Don't worry, I'm going to explain this so to understand. Yeah, because immediately you understand this, I'm telling you, it is going to be very, very simple for you to understand this topic. There are some things we call inherited characteristics. And these characteristics, the reason why they are called inherited characteristics, it is because they are just passed from parents to the offsprings. More like the offsprings actually just inherit those characteristics from their parents. I don't know if you understand that. Now, what about, I've explained why we call these characteristics as inherited. The reason why we are using the term inherited, it is because the offspring actually get those characteristics from their parents. Hence, they are called inherited. But what about these characteristics? So when we are talking about characteristics and genetics, we are talking about things that can help you to identify someone, like skin color, like the color of your hair, like things like your height. Yeah, those characteristics which can help people to identify you or to describe you. I don't know if you understand that. So those characteristics are said to be inherited. Reason why: your height, your skin color, and maybe your facial expression. Yeah, so to say, your facial expression, you would find that you just inherited those things from what? From your parents. I don't know if you understand that. Yeah, you just inherited those characteristics through the process of fertilization. Yeah, the parents actually had to transmit their characteristics, like their IT, their skin color, their facial expression, and other things. They had to actually to give them to you. You as a beneficiary, you just inherit those characteristics. The height you are having, what you need to understand is that the height you are having is not yours. You just inherited that height from your parent. And then also the skin color. skin color you are having, you need to understand that that skin color is not yours. You just inherited that skin color from your parent. Also, you need to understand that the color of your hair, the color of your hair, you need to understand that that color is actually not yours. You just inherited it from your parents. I don't know if you understand that. So that is why they are called inherited characteristics. It is because all those characteristics which actually comprise you, all those characteristics you've been consist of are not yours, like skin color, hair color, height. All those characteristics are not yours. You just inherited them from your parents. That's why we are calling them to be inherited characteristics. Wow. Now let's talk about, I don't know if you understand that, but I'm very much sure that you've understood that. So having understood that, let's now define genetics. So when we talk of genetics, genetics now is the study of mechanisms which actually involved in the inherited of what? Of those characteristics. I don't know if you understand that. How those characteristics are inherited from us, I mean from parents to the offspring. That is what? Genetics. How did you inherit your height? How did you inherit the skin color from your parents? How did you actually inherit your hair color from what? From your parents. That is genetics. That is the simplest definition of genetics. It's just a study of mechanisms which are involved in the control, expression, and actually the transmission of what? Of these inherited characteristics. Like, how am I going to give my characteristics to my offsprings? What happens when I'm giving my, how do these characteristics actually are passed from me to my offsprings? That is what? That is genetics. I hope you understand. This is very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. That is genetics. Though I haven't seen any question asking actually about the definition of genetics, but it is very important that you understand the definition so that you know where we are going. So that is the definition for genetics. When we talk of genetics, we're just talking about the mechanisms which are involved in the control, transmission, and expression of what? Inherited characteristics. And as of now, I'm very much sure that you know what this term inherited characteristics are, and you can even be able to give some answers of, I mean, some examples of inherited characteristics. We've got height, we've got skin color, we've got the color of the hair, we've got blood group. Yeah, those are inherited characteristics because you just got those things from your parents. I don't know if you understand that. I don't know if you understand that. That is very, very simple and interesting. You just got those from your parents. So if maybe people actually tend to tell you to say, no, you are very beautiful. No, tell them to say, thank my parents, because that is where I got these characteristics. I don't even you understand that. Yeah, if people are thanking you to say, are praising you to say, no, you are handsome, you are beautiful, tell them to say, go and give honor and praises to my parents, because actually, yeah, because that is where I got these characteristics which made me to be looking beautiful. I don't know if I understand that. Yeah, so that is the mechanism, that is what is there, that is the bottom line, the basic of genetics. Yeah, okay, so now having understood this, let's talk about something interesting. Yeah, let's now dive into our lesson. Since now you've understood what genetics is, let's dive into our lesson by talking about variation. What is variation? Because this that is where they get most of the questions in paper one, biology paper one. They mostly talk about variation. They mostly ask about variation. What is variation and other things? Yeah, so that is our next thing to consider. Talking of variation, please, I want you to get this. This is very simple. Talking of variation, when you talk of variation, in fact, that is why even the word vary, actually, that is where it came from. Yeah, that is where the word vary came from. Yeah, to vary, and I'm sure you even know that what it means when you are saying to say this thing, actually, this person varies from that one. Yeah, so in the same manner, when you talk of variation, we're just talking about the differences. I want you to get this. We're just talking about the differences in characteristics among organisms. Now, the most important thing is that these organisms must be of the same species. I hope you recall this term species from our topic we did, which is ecology. Yeah, variation is nothing but just are the differences in characteristics among organisms of the same species. Let's talk, for example, we talk of human beings. You'd find that if you get 50, yeah, let me give this illustration so I to understand very well. If you get uh, 50 people, yeah, let's say, for example, you've gotten 50 people, you're going to find that, or maybe, yeah, just three, yeah, you're going to find that among these three, there's someone who is going to be taller than the other. Yeah, than others, so to say. And then there is someone who is going to be shorter than these all these three. I don't know if you've seen that. So in this way, we are seeing variation in these three human beings. Reason why there's someone who is taller, I mean who is shorter, there's someone who is taller, and this one who is in between. Hope you've seen that. So there's a difference between, I mean there's a difference in terms of height. There's a difference in terms of height among these human beings. That is why we're saying to say variation is just nothing but differences between, I mean differences in characteristics among organisms of the same species. So you'd find that if these are actual human beings, even their skin colors will be different. I don't know if you understand that. So that is also variation. So variation, get maybe, yeah, just gather your siblings and then start considering your skin colors. You're going to find that each skin color for each person is going to be different from the skin color for another person. Have you seen? So in that way, we are saying to say skin color is showing variation. Is showing variation. Is showing a difference in characteristic. Which characteristic? Skin color among living organisms of the same species, which is of course in this case human beings. Hope you understand that. Very, very simple to understand. When you get maybe, yeah, just gather your siblings and then you're going to find that you are going to vary in terms of blood groups. There's someone who's going to be having blood group O, maybe someone blood group A, maybe someone blood group what? Yeah, like that. Have you seen? So you're going to see to say blood group is showing variation in that it is actually different from among, I mean from each other. It is different from this person to that person, from this person to that person, and that we can see to say there is variation in terms of what? Blood group. I don't know if you're getting that. So that is variation. So now here are the questions which they ask. Of course, what we need to understand is that we've got two types of variations. We've got continuous variation and we've got discontinuous variation. Continuous variation and discontinuous variation. So now, what are these two things? What are continuous variations and discontinuous what? Variation. In other words, we are saying to say, what are some of the characteristics which show continuous variation and which show discontinuous variation? But before that, what is continuous variation and what is discontinuous variation? This is what I want you to understand. And from here, I'm telling you, you'll be able to answer some of paper 1 questions. Wow, let's talk about it. So what you need to understand is that whenever you talk about continuous variation is a type of variation where a certain characteristic, actually a certain characteristic has got main intermediates. That is a key point which I want you to get. Main intermediates between two extremes. Wow. So if you understand this one actually will be very simple. This is very, very simple. I want you to get this. So when we talk of continuous variation, we are talking about characteristics which have got main intermediates between two extremes. I hope you understand that. What do I mean? Let me break it down. So if you have a certain characteristic, let's say for example we've got 50, you get 50 people, not so, yeah, you get 50 ladies and gentlemen, and then you actually you tell them to make a line. You are going to find that when you are considering the height is going to be different. Let's say, for example, we've got someone who is the shortest among them, and you've got someone who is the tallest among them. You are going to find that in between here, there will be main intermediates between these two extremes. By saying between two extremes, we are saying someone who is the shortest, because this one is an extreme, is the shortest, and this one who is the tallest is an extreme. Hope you understand that. So now in between here, we're going to find that there will be a lot of heights. You've seen that, not so. Yeah, there will be a lot of height. So we are going to say height shows continuous variation because it has got main intermediates between these two extremes. I don't even understand that. Same applies to skin color. If you've got 50 people and then you tell them to make a line, you're going to find that you get someone who is the darkest, yeah, and then someone who is the lightest. You're going to find that between these two extremes, between this one who is the darkest and this one is the lightest. I don't know if there is such an English, but I want you to understand. You're going to find that in between here there will be a lot of skin colors. There will be a lot of intermediates. Yeah, hope you understand that. So that type of variation is called continuous variation. Very, very simple. When you talk of this continuous variation is very simple, and what you understand is that this one is opposite, the opposite of this one. Yeah, this one, a certain characteristic does not have main intermediates between two extremes. An example is sex. We've got only males and females. Even if you get 100 people, you're going to find that if you are considering, you put here a male, you put here a female, and then you make a line of 100 people, you're going to find that all these people will be in between there are just going to be either a male or a female, That characteristic, which is of course sex, does not have a lot of intermediates, and that is it is continuous that characteristics, characteristic shows discontinuous variation. So this is what you need to know. And the other thing which is very important, when we plot a graph of continuous variation, always it comes like this one, like a bell. And when we plot a graph of discontinuous variation, always we have these bars. Yeah, I saw this question in one of the past papers. Go and check. This one is for discontinuous because it has a fixed number. We've got 1, 2, 3. Yeah, a certain characteristic actually has got fixed number. Like in this case of sex, we've got only 2 possibilities. Someone can either be a male or a female. When we talk of blood groups, we've got only 4 blood groups: A, B, we've got O, we've got AB. So blood groups also actually show discontinuous variation because the number is fixed. But when we talk of colors, skin colors, can you count the skin colors we have in this world? No. Can you actually count the number of the heights we have in this world? No. So that shows continuous variation, and because of that we cannot count them, and that's why we plot it like this. But for this one, we plot it like this because actually the characteristic or the number of that particular characteristic is actually fixed. Hope you understand this and it is making sense, and I'm sure it is interesting.